Oh my god, it's lagging like crazy. Okay. Whoa, my frames are everywhere. Okay. Hello, it's been a couple days. I wanted to watch more. My frames are everywhere. I wanted to watch more sooner, but no. I'm busy as hell. I am so busy. I have so many things going on. I just dropped out of a competition that I wanted to do, even though my my teacher who recommended me for the competition flat out suggested multiple times to me that I should quit because it's not worth it and the competition is being very badly run right now because of COVID and it probably isn't worth it. But I still feel like I've cut myself off. I've robbed myself of success. I'm going insane. I'm going bonkers. Sorry. This is very aptly put. My older sister made me aware that there's a name for this phenomenon. It's called FOMO. And I've heard that before, but I didn't know it was before. She said it's fear of missing out. So I kind of have that, but debilitating. So it's a hard time. So yeah, FOMO, OCD, awful experience. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so there's that. I have a bunch of other shit going on. I'm directing a musical right now with a cast who has been cast that I have written that I have not finished writing. The music is not done and rehearsals are started. It's happening. I have actors who are singers and the music isn't done at all. It should be done by now. I have homework. My classes are actually getting difficult and I should have been writing music when I could have, but I'm a lazy piece of shit. I have so many things to do. I'm fucking failing physics. I'm gonna... Life's crazy. I'm dying. And the only thing that can save me is Jonathan Sims. It's my only light in the world. Jonathan Sims, please. Come down from the heavens and bless me with your brilliant voice acting. The gang's back together. A bunch of shit happened the last 2 episodes. I have been recording these, there's been no gaps in episodes. I've been recording every single one. After these, I can finally watch the Magnus Archives on my own again until 2 episodes from now where I have to start recording again. But the next 2 episodes, I'm watching on my own, which I'm glad for because I could finally listen to it again. I started listening to the show that so that I could listen to it in the car, and then I realized I liked it too much, and I was like, no! I can't listen to it in the car anymore! Okay, last episode, a bunch of shit happened. I talked for an hour about it. I don't think I need to talk about it again. I've been thinking about it all the time, but it's usually the same thoughts. So it's Elias, epic moment. Jonathan Sims, back archives, Martin, Tim's very sad. Melanie says, what? Really? Where am I? Why am I here? Everyone says, we're dying. Elias does cool things. The freaking unknowing, super cool concept, super cool name. I'm really hyped about that. I like this antagonistic force. I love Jonathan Sims' superpower moments. He comes busting. I already talked about this. The 3 of them coming busting and then Jonathan Sims going, did you kill Gertrude Robinson? I already talked about this. Okay. What else happened? There's also the episode before that. Michael Crew got shot in the head. Jonathan Sims' lighter in his bag. This fucking spiderweb lighter. I forgot what was on the lighter. I keep changing whatever is on that lighter whenever I bring it up. I fucking forgot about it because they haven't mentioned it since the Breaking and Hope guys came in here. I still have no idea who the Breaking and Hope guys are related to. We know that they were helping the stranger through the not them. But why would they bring a lighter with a spider web on it? Why does Jonathan Sims still have it? He just kept it. He was like, a lighter. I don't smoke anymore, but now I smoke again. I need a smoke. Oh my god, the guy's dead. People keep referencing the pipe. I think, is that the thing, did Elias beat Jürgen Leitner with a pipe? Like, because they mentioned it in the Q&A. I thought they were talking about Jonathan. They're like, they're like, how do I portray that this character is holding a pipe without saying that they are holding a pipe? Jonathan Sims walks in the room and he says, I am holding a pipe. Oh yeah, they made jokes about how someone made jokes about the fact, I don't know if it was in the Q&A. No, it was someone else. Wait, no, was it me? Am I going insane? Did I think? Why am I referring to my own opinions like someone else said? Are these was that me? I don't know. This is the first time this has happened to me where this happens all the time to me where I'm like, who did this? Who I'm like, someone said this, but I can't remember who. But I've never gotten to the point where I'm like, did I say that? I'm the reactor / commentator who said that. This is very strange. I was like something like, I thought Jonathan Sims was. I thought Elias was beating that guy with a smoking pipe, something like that. Oh my god, my internet just went whoop whoop whoop. Okay. I'm gonna go and listen to the next episodes. I don't know what I'm doing. It's still open on the last thing. There's an Encanto ad, that's why. Sorry about your wedding, didn't mean to be upsetting. It wasn't a promise, I could just see that you were sweating. Oh no. And your bro loves you so. Rapping. So many episodes. I'm so close to episode 100, and that makes me sad. I don't want to be halfway through the series that I love a lot. I like the world building a lot. I like the characters a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna be watching. Oh my god, fuck. People on my timeline. I just realized how much the people on my timeline like the Magnus Archives. I had no idea that I'd seen people mention it there and again, so I've been subconsciously filing it away, you need to watch the Magnus Archives. Fuck, I keep saying watch, because someone on my timelines, someone who I've been moots with for a long someone I've been moots with for a long time, and and they just said, I'm on episode 117 of the Magnus Archives, and I replied, I was like, oh my god, I'm watching the Magnus Archives too, and 1 second later I was like, fuck, I mean listening to. And that was the only tweet of mine they liked. They didn't even respond. They just liked it. And I'm like, I hate everything. Okay, I'm listening to Contaminant. We're probably going back to standalone stories, but since we're back, it seems like we might have some interesting little character things maybe at the end. Containment. Bro, why am I kind of sweaty?
Do you want the dramatic stuff? The jaw-dropping, can't believe what you're seeing stuff? You know, the good stuff? Then you want AMC Plus. Looking for fantasy? Lose yourself in the magic and romance of a discovery of witches, the final chapter, starring Matthew
That's
Good
what the title
and
says.
Teresa Palmer.
Doing Japanese.
And if you're thirsting for a thriller, get ready for the final season of Killing Eve, premiering February 27th.
Killing Eve.
With AMC Plus, you go deep with the best kind of drama. It's ad-free, on demand, and wherever you want it. Sign up at amcplus.com and start watching your next obsession. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
The new year is a great time to focus on what's most important to you, whether it's saving money by ordering less takeout, learning to cook, or prioritizing your wellness. Hello.
Give me me the spooky music. Okay.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Oh, by the way, I'll just mention this before this starts. There's someone who's been watching these reactions, which is, no, like, I've been looking at my videos, like, I just refreshed the page, and suddenly, like, a bunch of my reactions had, like, 2 to 3 likes, and I was like, who? It's like, there's one person, though, who replied to me in the video saying, reply to me, I mean, comment, but, like, they were super nice. Even though it's super weird to think that someone could be watching these because, they were called Sindragasti. Yeah, I don't know, but they were super nice. It's just super weird to think that someone would be watching these. It's just like, I made these because of my mental problems. And because of how much I love the show. It's a combination of I like this show because I have mental problems. Okay, let's just continue. Let me hear Jonathan Sims' voice. And the spooky music. Thank you for watching, even though you have to comb through so many of my rants. Contaminant. Oh my god, I fucking wrote containment in the description. Okay. Okay, give me a... You know what? I'll change it later. Who fucking cares? I'm sure it's fine. I wrote containment. I've been watching an SCP podcast in place of the Magnus Archives MAG.
Statement of Lester Chang regarding the cleaning habits.
How does it feel to be back in the chair, dude?
Right. Hello, Admiral. How have you been? Yeah, I've missed you too. I'm trying to find you on a belly rub. Wrong hand, cat. Wrong hand.
It's his cat.
Sorry, Admiral. It's been a hard few days. Hope I haven't upset Georgie too much. Now, how can she be mad? She's got you. Yep, that's your ass. Thanks for that. Look, I know I love you too, but can I have my...
These cat sound effects.
I kind of need to... Oh, okay. Belly rubs. You don't have to worry about all this stuff, do you? Bit over your head, I guess. Bet the world ends and you...
This cat's really going like...
Oh, right. You done? Okay. Statement of Lester Chang regarding the...
I'm pausing! We saw his cat. Did he mention his cat before? I think he may have mentioned his cat before once, ever. But oh my god! We got to hear Jonathan Sims interacting with his cat. Okay. This is they're getting me hooked on this character. They make me like this character too much. I'm like going insane. Like, I like this character way too much. They're making him too endearing. He's too powerful. Okay. But like, seriously. We just saw a cat. We didn't see a cat. We listened to a cat, and it sounded really weird. But it was, oh my god, we got to hear Jonathan Sims talk to his freaking cat, and it's called Admiral. He's Jonathan Sims. Oh my god. Jonathan Sims is like the best character. He's just the best. I just love him. He was talking to a cat. I want to listen to that over and over again. That was adorable. Oh my god. He's like, hi, Admiral. It's been a tough couple of days. That's your ass. Admiral. Why? It's literally, oh my god. He's so endearing. I'm gonna cry. Okay. I love Jonathan Sims. He's just the dude. He's just best boy.
Original statement given
Cleaning
March
habits.
5th, 1995.
Okay. 1995.
Recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London.
We're back in here.
Begins.
I guess we're in his house though, because I expected us to be back in the institute. Because his house or Georgie's house? Because we know he mentioned Georgie. Is his house still like something? Are the police still after him? Like the police? I mean, I guess operational discretion or whatever. I don't know. But if Daisy reported back about the guy she was gonna murder, but so Jonathan Sims is at his residing quarters, I guess, with his cat. But he's back to the job. I expected him to just be at the institute, but like, hey, working from home, I guess. Unless his cat is just at the Magnus Institute. I wish. He lives here now. Okay.
My father-in-law was always a fastidious man. When we first met, I made some jokes about OCD, but a few warning looks from Danny shut me right up.
Don't talk about OCD in front of me.
Was very tidy and very clean, but balanced out, I always thought, by his wife Sandra, my mother-in-law. I know I meant to hate my mother-in-law, but honestly, Sandra and I got on fantastically. Both of us were kind of messy and found the chaos comforting and homely. And we had very similar senses of humour. I never figured out whether she and Greg complemented each other or drove each other.
Find someone with the same sense of humour.
Horrified by the way they talked to each other, convinced I was about to witness the messy divorce of my girlfriend's parents. But 12 years later, they were still together, and I found myself privy to their more tender moments. To be honest, I'm still not sure how healthy their relationship was, but it seemed to work for them, and Danielle, my wife, didn't seem to have inherited any of their more confrontational habits when it came to our relationship. All in all, I enjoyed seeing them 2 or 3 times a year on holidays, but was kind of glad they lived all the way up in Newcastle. Danny would talk to them on the phone for hours, and I'd get all the updates, but crucially, I didn't have to do much of the interaction myself. And that was more than enough for me. Then, last year, the unthinkable happened. Hereditary conditions, right? They can really ruin everything. The doctors told us the chances of it happening were astronomical. Like we should be proud of having something so unlikely march in and ruin our lives. But within 10 months, both myself and Greg were widowers. I think I must have spent more nights that year in hospital chairs than I did in my own bed. But November rolled around and I had it all to myself. You don't realise how big a bed can be until something like that happens. I don't really know what I expected to do to my relationship with my father-in-law. I mean, I didn't really expect anything at all. If you'd asked me at the time, I probably would have said that it should have brought us closer together, that we'd probably end up leaning on each other for support. But that never really happened.
People do distance themselves after loss.
He stopped contacting me completely. He still answered the phone when I called, but was polite when I went to check up on him. Every bit of communication had to be instigated by me. And he had gotten cleaner. I didn't think it was possible, but every time I went over there, the smell of bleach was almost overwhelming.
Ew,
more often than not, he was wearing rubber cleaning gloves when he opened the door, and as I walked around, I could feel his eyes, making note of everywhere I walked, everything I touched. I tried to talk to him about it, suggest he get help, but whenever I mention it, he would try to change the subject and talk about television or the news, though if I tried, it became clear he didn't actually follow either. Finally, I decided I just couldn't stand it anymore. I sat him down and told him that if he didn't talk to someone about his compulsions, I was going to have to set something up for him. I told him that whatever he was doing, it wasn't the right way to deal with Sandra and Danny's death. I didn't handle it well. I was still deep in grief myself, and I almost broke down, pleading with him, telling him it wasn't healthy. When I said that, he laughed. He actually threw his head back and laughed. It It was one of the most unnerving sounds I'd ever heard. Greg stood up, walked over to a small cabinet in his kitchen, and opened it to reveal row upon row of individually packaged miniatures of gin. He picked one of them up and inspected it, checking the top and bottom and examining the seal to make sure it was unbroken. Then, in one swift motion, he opened the tiny bottle and emptied it down his throat. He did this 3 times before he finally looked back at me. His gaze was softened by the alcohol, but it still looked like it was almost a physical effort for him to force out the words. "There is mold in my drain." That's all he said. Not all that strange a sentence, all things considered.
What is this? Okay.
But something in his face, something in the way he pressed those words out through his lips, made me suddenly feel cold all over. I made my excuses and left. He didn't look up as I closed the front door behind me. I tried to forget, tried to just move on and ignore it. If he didn't want my help, then I had no business trying to force it on him. But I couldn't do it. He was Danny's father, my last connection to her. I don't believe in ghosts or the afterlife or anything like that, but I knew she would have wanted me to do something. Danny never gave up on anyone. Work wasn't expecting me back for another few weeks, and Danny had a solid life insurance policy, so there wasn't any problem booking a decent hotel room for a week in Newcastle. I knew that my father-in-law would never allow me to stay in his home, not at that point. But he couldn't stop me being nearby. So I started to check in on him every day. I brought him hot meals and talked to him for hours, even when he didn't want to talk back. But none of it seemed to weaken the cleaning compulsion that had taken hold of him. If anything, after a few days, I noticed that I had adopted the habit of cleaning my hands a second time before leaving the hotel bathroom.
It's infectious. How ironic, it's infectious. Okay, I'm sorry.
On the 5th day, I did see inside his bathroom, though. I won't go into details, but suffice to say my use of it was over his protests. It was just as clean as the rest of the house. Beyond clean, really, as I could see some of the enamel fittings had been worn down, and the tile grouting and sealant around the sink were starting to corrode. I shook my head and turned to leave, but as I did so, I saw a small flash of colour in the bath. I pulled back the white curtain and looked down. Surrounding the edges of the plug's pristine chrome was a small halo of purple. I leaned over to get a closer look. It appeared to be some sort of fungus, scrubbed away so only the faintest traces remained.
Hey, it's in his sink.
There was a spongy, fibrous look to it, and I had the sudden image of long, soft tendrils stretching away down through the pipes. It was the colour of a fresh bruise and smelled sour like old milk. I don't know how long I stood staring at it.
What colour are
When I
bruises
looked up,
again?
my father-in-law stood in the bathroom door with a look on his face that was a mixture of anger and embarrassment. He started screaming at me about privacy and respect, about how he was a clean man and knew how to keep his house pure. He had a lump of wire wool in his hands, and I left quickly because I was somehow sure that if I didn't, he was going to start scrubbing me with it. I didn't go back the next day, both to let him cool off and because I needed to spend some time convincing myself that I shouldn't just head home and leave him to whatever the hell he thought was going on. I couldn't get that mold out of my head, though. When I went out to eat, I kept thinking I could smell that awful sour odour, and I ended up just sitting there, watching my burger as it cooled down, searching its surface for any signs of something. At one point, a fly landed on it, and I just found myself nodding, like everything was exactly as it should be. I don't know. I wasn't sleeping well. My sheets felt odd, slimy somehow, though whenever I turned the lights on to look, there was nothing out of the ordinary. I did go back. Of course I did. He wasn't well. I know I should have done something, forced some help on him somehow, but even now I'm not sure how I could have done it. Greg didn't answer the door, but it wasn't locked. The house was still spotless, but the cleanliness didn't look quite as fresh, as it had before. Like it's been cleaned earlier and just hadn't been used since then. My father-in-law was sat on the sofa in the same clothes he'd had on the last time I'd seen him. His
So much
skin
for
was
being
slick
clean.
with sweat, and his face was blank.
Clean, I mean.
I called out to him and he looked up, but there was no recognition in his eyes. I glanced behind him and saw the bathroom door was closed. Not just closed, though, but sealed. All the edges and the cracks had been packed through with sealant. He'd even nailed extra wood to the bottom of the door and sealed all the crevices of that. It didn't do anything to stop that sour smell, though, which seemed to pulse and ooze from the doorway, and as I stared at the edges of it, I noticed the sealant was laced through with thin tendrils of purple. I turned to Greg to say something, to ask a question, but then I noticed something. I began to realize that, aside from his head, every inch of skin was covered with clothes, with gloves or a scarf. Whereas before he had been dressing to be sterile, now it seemed like he was dressing to keep covered. And then I looked into his face. I saw the thin crust of purple around his eyelids, the corner of his mouth, and the color of veins in his bloodshot eyes. He started to move to open his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance. I didn't even stop to consider alternatives. I just turned on my heel and ran. Some people might call me a coward, but I am absolutely sure those people would not have made it out of that house alive. I know I should have called someone, told the police or the ambulance service, but I was in shock. I didn't know what I'd just witnessed. I still don't, not really. I went back one more time, but I didn't even get past the front gate before the smell hit me, and I turned back. It looked like my father-in-law was moving, though. I remember it was Brecon and Hope doing it. They had a depot a ways down the street, and I recall thinking how odd it was, using a couple of local lamps in such a small van, given how much furniture they were having to load up from
They're everywhere.
I asked them about it, about where he was, but they just looked at each other and mumbled something in Polish or Russian. And then they completely ignored me. I was going to press the issue, but I got another wave of that dreadful, rotten smell from the house, and realized I had to leave before I was sick. The next time I went back, the place was empty. The smell was gone, and I never saw my father-in-law again. Statement ends.
Okay then.
Elias gave me this before I left. Said it might help me clarify my next move. I should really have waited for some rest before I recorded it, or until I'd had a chance to move out of Georgie's. I've already stayed here too long. It's not fair putting her in danger like this. Or the Admiral. God, if Daisy had come while I was here. I wasn't sure what Elias meant by my next move until the end of this statement. Horrible as whatever it was that overtook Greg Russell must have been, it seems less than entirely relevant to the current situation.
Rip.
But Brecon and Hope, speaking Russian and helping transport a victim of whatever dark power rules over disease and rot and insects, maybe.
And
I was
it's not spiders though. They're special.
they served the stranger, and their speaking Russian might well support that if it ties them to the
Circus, which is
This is not
definitely
the
the
first
stranger.
time they've been delivering things that seem to be tied to other beings. Are they a neutral party?
Yeah,
Around whatever
okay.
horror needs delivering, just a piece of otherworldly infrastructure?
They're not them called them like friends, but
Fully
are they
part of
just
the stranger,
everything? Do they
serving
just
as
do
allies of
everything?
convenience,
I've
or
said that
other things that need to be
Jonathan Sims and me were on the same wavelength.
More
We're
importantly,
discussing
he
Bacon and
mentions
Hope.
a depot in Newcastle. Sasha checked on the Nottingham depot when they first came up.
Sorry.
Almost 2 years ago now.
Oof, 2
A
years.
different time.
It's 2 seasons, huh?
But that had long been gentrified into luxury flats. Sasha never mentioned that there might have been other depots, and I never asked. I need to do some digging, because if the place is still there, if the building is still standing, I might just have an idea where to...
So, what, you were just packing this away?
Georgie, I needed to do one more.
I asked you not to record them here.
I'm sorry, I honestly forgot. It's been a hell of a week.
Yeah, not just for you. What, you think you just disappear for 5 days, then turn up looking like the end of Die Hard, and I'll just write it off? Classic John, what an interesting life he must lead.
No,
Where have you been?
I've got a
What
burnt
happened to your
hand.
hand?
I don't want to talk about it.
Tough.
Look, I'm moving out anyway, so just forget it. I'm out of your life, all right?
No.
No what?
You leave, you don't get your tapes back.
What?
When you disappeared,
Holding the
I took
tapes
the tapes you
hostage.
recorded and locked them away. Honestly, I
These
thought
are
I might
those
use
are
them as
important
evidence.
a little bit.
You want them back, you tell me what's happening.
Georgie, please, you'll think I'm delusional.
I really hope so, John. Because right now, I just think you're a dickhead.
All right. Okay, it started when I got that job at the Magnus Institute, you remember?
Yeah, they do.
Georgie's in
studies
the know
on ghosts
now.
and
Everyone's
psychics
in
and
the
that, right?
know.
More or less. Well, I was hired as a researcher, and that was fine. I enjoyed it. Nothing really
So yeah,
paranormal, but
Researcher
life was
John before.
fine. It was good. Then, a couple of years ago, the head of the archives, Gertrude Robinson, she disappeared. And Elias, my boss, chose me as her replacement.
Why?
What?
Why would he give you that job?
He thought I could do it.
You were a researcher, John. I mean, that's a long way from an archivist. And I know you don't just have a library science degree hanging around.
I
it's
mean,
all the same
it's a unique.
data and papers and stuff.
It's a unique.
Not really.
Well, I was given some assistants. Just Tim's, Sasha, and Martin. They helped.
Look, were any of them trained in information science?
I don't know.
This isn't a very conventional employment
got to the weird
office, you
I
know.
know you talk a good game, John, but hiring you out of the blue as an archivist is pretty weird.
Head archivist.
Well, that does
Okay.
make sense, actually, in context.
I'm not sure I follow.
What I mean is, if there's no one above you, there's no one to point out you're doing everything wrong.
Look,
What
can we
the heck?
put my professional competence to one side, please? Because I'm trying to tell you monsters are real.
Okay,
Okay.
Well,
Okay, what?
okay.
I mean, I run
No
with the
monsters
ghosts.
are real, and I assume there's more?
You know.
I run a
You just believe it.
podcast, a supernatural podcast.
It's not belief. I've seen them.
You've seen monsters.
Not the time, John.
Right.
I have an
Just
interest in the
think I'm
supernatural
telling
for a reason.
Really. That's not great.
Okay, what's going on?
You've seen monsters.
Not the
Okay.
time, John.
Right. It's just I think I'm turning into one.
Oh, that.
That's
I mean,
not great.
I don't know how to dispute
Ever
that.
since I took this job, I felt compulsion to read out some of the statements, the ones that really touched the supernatural. And when I do, I feel
Sorry.
them. I feel their confusion and fear. I tried to write
It's
it off.
true. Okay, so that
And I can
they
make
they
people
said it.
tell me their stories. Anytime I ask a question, people just answer.
Okay, well, that bit will need some proof.
Fine. What is something you would never choose to tell me?
Why would you ask that
When we
question?
first met, I thought you were putting on that accent to sound more impressive. Oh. Oh, John, I'm so
no,
sorry.
It's all right.
That's so funny. Why are they like this?
A long time ago, anyway. Proof?
Georgia really has
Yeah,
no
yeah, I
no.
guess so.
Just
The Institute.
that sounded like such a Doug question, and the way John phrased it too, and Georgia was just like, insult about your accent. Georgie's great. I completely trust Georgie 100%. Like, the one thing she didn't want to tell John is that she thought his accent was fake. Is this a British thing? British people's accents? It's the sacred to them, you know? Georgie couldn't bring herself to disrupt that. Okay.
There are beings, like gods or powers or something that
Or
they're
something.
outside our universe somewhere, but they push through sometimes in the form of these monsters.
Good
And
description.
sometimes they choose people to be servants or conduits.
Avatars?
Avatars. But they end up getting these abilities. And they lose a lot of their self. Sometimes all of it.
And you think that's what's happening to you?
Yes. Yes. The Institute serves one of these beings, at least Elias, who runs the place, does. Since accepting the Archivist job, I've been different. And I can't quit or apparently do any violence to him. I'm bound somehow.
That does at least explain why he picked you. If your job is asking questions, I mean. You were always the one who pushed too far and asked smart-ass, awkward questions. I always was surprised you never got punched.
Well, I think that bit of
Yes. John,
So,
anytime anyone
boss
talks
is
about
involved,
John's characterization, I'm
you
like,
can't
yes, Jonathan
And
Sim.
you can't quit. So you fled here?
And there were some murders.
Oh. I assume that's why I had the police asking after you.
Oh, they came here.
It's fine, you were asleep.
What?
But anyway, that
He was
makes
just, he
sense,
just
but
slept through it.
it doesn't explain the hand.
Oh, that was one of the other avatars.
Of your guy, or...
Well, no, my patron is focused on knowledge and observation. Elias calls it the eye, but I've also heard it called beholding or ceaseless watcher. A lot of names. This one was the lightless flame, or I think she called it the desolation. It's burning, destruction, pain, all the bad bits of fire without any of the light or joy.
Yeah,
Sounds lovely.
I do associate fire with
And
good
you were
things,
meeting them
which is
because-
super sad for these
One of
people.
the powers, the stranger, is its beings are trying to perform a ritual they call the unknowing. Apparently it's meant to remake the world, to bring it closer to their master. I don't know exactly what that means or where it is, but I need to stop it.
Jonathan Sims, are you trying to save the world?
Yes! That's what I said!
Yeah.
The way he said, yeah. This man's a
I need
superhero.
information.
This is his
I've been trying to
superhero
find
origin
as many
story.
like me as possible. I've got a lot of leads. A weird Russian circus run by Gregor or Nikola or Sinov, and these weird van drives that seem to turn up everywhere.
Everywhere.
And
I
tattoos
mean
and
everywhere.
skin and all sorts, but nothing solid. Elias has been sending me statements, apparently to prepare me, whatever that means, but some of the people I've been talking to have been very dangerous. I'm starting to feel like a bit of a
Sad again.
punching bag, to be honest.
Jonathan Sims gets
It would be
beat
nice
up
to
every
have an answer
episode.
and not have a scar to show for it.
Oh yeah, you got stabbed by Michael. I forgot about that. Hey, we got the whole
You believe-
exposition dump.
Yeah,
Not off screen.
yeah, I do.
Thank God.
Who's the Georgie
John,
statement? It's coming
These
up.
things you're talking about.
What the heck?
Is one of them like
The next...
death?
Yes, I think so. There's one I've heard called The End. Why?
Yeah. Someone was like, that never satisfied me.
I'll make us a cup of tea.
Oh my god. I just predicted, I swear I didn't look at the next episode description when I heard that. When I said was the Georgie statement. Because she implied that... Sorry, Magnus Archives statement. Because Georgie implied that she had encountered the supernatural before. I keep calling things the supernatural. What am I supposed to say? Monsters. I'm Jonathan Sims. I'm gonna call things monsters. Yeah. And then I said, where's Georgie's statement? And then I look at the next description and it says, statement of Georgina Barker. and she starts talking about death. We have heard the end. Someone said, I think, was it Mary Key who said something like, well, it was one of the, what do they call them? Avatars? Yeah, like you... Georgie was like, it was the one who was like, avatars? And he's like, yeah, avatars. That's a good name. We should use that. One of the avatars. I guess they're called avatars now. Like the last airbender, but not the last airbender, because there's like a bunch of airbenders probably. like a bunch of airbenders who like send you up into space, and then you look down, you're like, I'm falling forever. The guy must be an airbender. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, let's see if this is still going. It's still going. Okay, but yeah. Rip that guy. Jonathan Sims really read the end of that statement, and he was like, sadly, I don't think the actual personal content of the statement is relevant to what I'm doing, which is a very sad thing. But aside from that, Breaking and Hope, they're kind of sus. Why do they help everything and are everywhere and seem to be involved with every entity? What are their alliances? I need to know. And then that's me and Jonathan Sims. We're connected on a neurological level. Jonathan Sims also mentioned frickin'. What else did they mention? What did he mention? Oh, fuck. What did he say? There was something else that he said. The statements! They confirmed it. For real. They confirmed it for real. That Jonathan Sims feels the statement givers, like, in him when he records statements. Which is like, they've confirmed it for real, even though it's been heavily implied. Like, I guess I might be feeling weird because of all the I was gonna say caffeine, the carbonation. I drank soda earlier. But Jonathan Sims, something, whatever was I saying? Jonathan Sims has, what the fuck am I saying? What did I say? Yes, basically Jonathan Sims gets possessed by the spirit of statement givers when he says he feels their fear, their worry, their everything when he gives these statements. And I'm like, god damn it, they're so metatextually smart that I can't make the Jonathan Sims I can't make the character Jonathan Sims should quit being the alchemist and be a voice actor jokes anymore. No, it's just literally canon. He's not a voice actor, he's getting possessed. No. My Jonathan Sims voice actor jokes. No. I'll look back on the times when I watched the first episode, and the second episode, and the third episode, and the fourth episode, and the fifth episode, and make the same joke over and over again every time he switched into his character voice. I was like, damn, Jonathan Sims, you should be a voice actor. Why are you working here at this dingy institute? You clearly have a passion for theater. And I was like, Jonathan Sims is secretly a theater kid, and he should just quit and become an actor. And then I'm like, no! He's just canonically seeing statements through people's eyes. That sucks. I can't even make jokes anymore. What is this? Okay. That's great. I really love that. It's great. I already talked about this last fucking episode, I think. But I was talking about how I love how stories, I love stories that like incorporate like metastructural aspects of the medium, and how like the formula of how those stories are delivered into their stories and give them an in-text reason for existing that way. Perfection. Beloved. I love this show. God, I don't know what I am. I'm tired. High. I'm not high, but Georgie. Is one of your things death? Because Georgie Burger regarding the last words of a possible corpse. Okay. What the hell? I'm literally looking at the episode. Looking at. I feel like I guess these are spoilers, but I also really get hyped up when I read these. Episode 96 is freaking summary. It says a statement of Alfred Breakin regarding a pair of workers at his delivery company. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I feel like the next episode after this one, which I will in fact record, that I have to watch is. We all ignore the pit, not Return to Sender, even though I want to know about the Breaking in Hope guys. I feel like I'm going to be missing out. Ah. I'm going to look at these lists, see if anyone has anything. Yeah, I am reacting to 97. I guess the Breaking in Hope episode will just be one that I talk about extensively at the beginning of my 97 reaction. Probably. Okay, Georgina Burger. Statement.
Hi everyone, Ben here. I'd just like to take a moment to thank some of our patrons. Joshua Wilson, Rhiannon Knoll,
Patrons.
Cynthia J. Stewart,
Patreons.
Julian
Is
Pruitt,
Patreon
Xenia
only the title of the
McAllister,
website, but the
Chris
people who
Schneider,
support you are called
Ryan
patrons?
Fraser,
Like
Dan Pratt,
actual patrons?
Sean. Thank you all. We really appreciate your support. If you'd like to join them, go to www.patreon.com/RustyQuill and take a look at our rewards.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 94, Dead Woman Walking.
Right.
Right.
And you're sure you're okay with this? And with me recording?
I mean, no, but you told all your stuff, so I mean,
Look out in the open.
it's just fair, I think.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I failed to talk about how. Oh my god, I love anytime anyone brings up Jonathan Sims, his personality, and also anytime anyone brings up Jonathan Sims because I love him. But anytime anyone brings up Jonathan Sims' personality, I'm like, yes, describe him more. Well, it seems that, well, obviously, since John came to talk to her, I used to say to them, I call everyone them, and I hope you're not these fictional characters are not offended by the fact that I like to refer to people gender neutrally, because I feel like people in conversation shouldn't be judged based on their gender when they're being discussed. Okay. Axe it. Axe all of it. Axe everything I just said. Okay. We're very certain that Jonathan and Georgie knew each other before this, obviously, because he went to stay with her. But also that shines a weird, I don't know, like, that does bring in, Jonathan Sims did know of Melanie before she came and gave her statement. He knew of her. And, like, I feel like in her first statement, Melanie mentioned Georgie, but Jonathan Sims didn't, like, give any specific comment as to, like, if he knew her or not. But it makes sense, because the more we figure out about Jonathan Sims, we know he's been, like, he's gotten progressively more interested in the supernatural as he got traumatized as a child, and as he grew up, he was interested in the supernatural, which makes sense. Usually that's how things start out. And so it would make sense that, like, with those interests and his inquisitive nature, he got to know some people also interested in the supernatural and documentation and all that stuff, and he's just involved with Georgie. But I don't know. It makes me think, did Jonathan know Melanie before she came to the Institute? I don't think they didn't speak that familiarly in the first interview, but I feel like if the writers told me they knew each other like before this, I wouldn't protest. I would be like, and I would be like, that shines a new light on the conversation. But they're acting standoffishly because they don't have a good relationship, or Melanie just doesn't like the Institute, and you're like, sell out. But like as time went on with like Melanie and John, like they were being nerds together. They were being absolute nerds together. Like in the second interview, like they were being absolute nerds. They were geeking out like in front of each other. They're like that works exactly with this point in our research. Oh my god! And they like completed each other's sentences. They're insane. But Georgie mentioned how Georgie brought up the whole like personality fitting thing, where it's like, well, in that case, like what was the way she said it? She was like, since you're like, you always were the guy that asked too many questions. I'm I'm surprised you haven't gotten beaten up for it. Like, thanks Georgie. Like, the way that... wait, I want to hear that again. Okay, I'm insane. I just like people talking about Jonathan Sims. I just like his character. Okay, I'm going back to the last episode.
John, but hiring you out of the blue as an archivist is pretty weird.
Georgie talking about the whole job credentials thing. Like, she's talking like this is a real world like institution where like things are super professional and things aren't at all influenced by the will of some random all-seeing god. No, you need real job credentials. You need an information systems degree. You need a fucking, I don't know. He just did it. and Jonathan Sims did not question it at all. He's like, yeah, this isn't a normal promotion just because I could do it, you know, I can do anything. I'm Jonathan Sims. Why couldn't I be an archivist, you know?
Archivist.
Well, that's
To one.
Sorry.
really, that's not great.
Oh yeah, and Jonathan Sims, he talked about how I will never stop referring to this man as Jonathan Sims, like full name Jonathan Sims. He talked about how he, like, the way he explained this to Georgie. He said, monsters are real. I think I might be becoming one. Oh, Jonathan Sims! That's a way to phrase it, because we're really emphasizing this point that Jonathan Sims is scared of not being human anymore, of becoming a monster, and I guess near-death experiences, because of that fact, might do that to a man, but we're really digging in on this, and that's like how he flat out said it. Jesus, Jonathan Sims. That's not good. Dang, that's so interesting. I love this guy. I love his character. Okay.
Fine. What is something you would never choose to tell me?
The first thing she
When
thought
we
of.
first met, I thought you were putting on that accent to sound more impressive. Oh.
Spooky
Josh,
music that was
True,
playing.
sometimes in the form of these monsters. And sometimes they choose people to be,
Picked you. If your job was asking questions, I mean. You were always the one who pushed too far and asked smart-ass, awkward questions. I always was surprised you never got punched.
well, I think that...
Smart ass awkward questions. It's Jonathan Sims. I just want him to be described. It's perfect. This is why I love the Mr. Spider episode so much. It's just because of the characterization is stellar. I love the way they describe Jonathan Sims. It's just like, I don't know why I love it so much. It's just highly endearing, you know? Because the way we were introduced to Jonathan Sims at first was this like stoic, dry, skeptic who's just like, yeah, supernatural stuff, yeah. Like, that's basically him at the beginning. But, like, the more we learn about him, the more it's like, you're kind of endearing, and I kind of like you. Like, the more it's like, we know more about him as, like, a guy, it's just like, you know, the more he gets, like fleshed out, like, he just, like, it just, like, his whole character just seems to, like, open up, like, whenever someone describes him, like how he appeared in season 1, at the beginning of season 1, is, like, was, like, a closed door, and every once in a while, when he, like, spoke to someone, like, maybe, like the first time he spoke to Sasha about the Calliope, rest in peace, Sasha, like, the door peeked open just a little bit, he's like, he was like, it's like, it was showing, like, just him being, like, a vulnerable person, like a nerd. Jonathan Sims, he's a nerd. He's, like, you know, he's awkward. Like, he feels so awkward. Like, at some points, like, he tries to act professional, like, he, like, all the time, but, like, the moment it did, like, he's, like, caught off guard, he, like, stumbles, and it's just, I don't know, it's just cool. Like, because of how he was portrayed so coldly at first, it's like, when you see that underlayer of just, he's just a person, he's just a dude, like, you see that personality underneath, it's like a shining ray of light from God, and then as it just peeks open more and more, like, like, my biggest Jonathan Sims character moments for me, like, there's, like, every time he talked to one of the assistants, like, he showed concern for one of them, like, Merton, like, oh my god, I forgot that, like, Merton during season 1, like, Martin seemed to think that Jonathan Sims was, like, the coldest motherfucker on the planet. Like he like, sat down with him, and, like, Jonathan Sims, like, you can stay here on the Institute because you're being targeted by murder. And then Martin's like, really? It's like, you're concerned for my health? Like, he was so shocked. He was so fucking shocked that Jonathan Sims cared at all. Like, he's that closed off. He was that closed off during season 1. And, like, I guess that did carry through. Jonathan Sims showed Merton one iota of care for his life and safety, and Merton, like, returned, like, loyalty 100-fold, like, for the rest of forever. He was like, dang, this guy cares. He can do no wrong. I trust him. Like, I guess Martin's just a good judge of character. There's that, and then just the more we see of him, like, how much he cares about his coworkers, like, how much he takes on upon himself, especially during season 2. Like, season 2 cracked open Jonathan Sims like a fucking egg. Like he was suspicious of him, though. But, like, during season 1, he showed he cared. But during season 2, it was like he cared so much that he cracked in half. like Jonathan Sims cracked open. Like, the door, instead of, like, opening up a little bit, it went like, and then he was literally a loose cannon going insane. Like, the entire episode, we saw, like, Jonathan Sims. I'm talking about Jonathan Sims forever. Oh my god. But then, like, he was like, Jonathan Sims. And then, like, the door is, like, shattered, basically, at this point. Like, he's freaking, the door has stopped being a door. It's, like, turned into, like, a freaking hodgepodge. And then, but, like, the more we see of Jonathan Sims as this, like, neurotic, like, basically borderline obsessive, like, seeker of the truth, like, which very much matches with what he's attached to now. But, like, just the more we see of him as a guy that needs to know, and, like, especially the season 2 finale, him freaking, like, his feeling like that human fear, that human, like, mourning, that grief, that clouded judgment because of, he couldn't protect someone who he cared about. It was like, and, like, that fear when he was about to die. especially he felt that during season 1 too. But like the more the delivery in the show is amazing, like voice acting wise. Oh my god, like that too. And then after that, we basically see this character out in the open, and then season 3 happens, and we get a gift from Mr. Spider, and then it feels like we see this character in full, like what they are, like who they are, like because we see where it started and how it kept going and and it just feels like we know this character, like we hear them every time, but now we like know them for real, like we feel this character because they feel human, more than human. They just feel like this genuinely interesting person, like, you know, I don't know what else to say except good writing. Like I could have just summed this all up with good writing. I'm a fool, but you know, I love his character. But like now back to the original actual topic. Georgie describing Jonathan Sims just like he was described in like he was portrayed in Mr. Spider. It's like this good confirmation of like this is who this character is, and this is how I love like Jonathan's interactions with Georgie, because one, seeing Jonathan Sims interact with his friends adds like an actual layer to him, seeing him more in his like as he is as a person, like in all, instead of just like how he reacts when he's being murdered, when his coworkers are in danger, when you know. So people were really spot on about that. I started looking at the Reddit at the beginning about people's like initial thoughts on the show, like when they first started watching, like later on. And then some people commented like, this guy, he seems kind of dry, like he's like super like cynical about all the supernatural stuff, and then people in the replies went like, yeah, he kind of sticks to that at the beginning, but it definitely doesn't stay that way. That fades a lot, and I tried to push it out of my mind. Like I'd never like really registered. Like I was like, okay, just character stuff. It's not a plot twist or anything. And I'm like, I'm glad to hear this character develops, but I never thought how much I'd love that. Like I'd love this development of this character. I'm obsessed with this character. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say I love this character so much. But like the more we get other characters talking about Jonathan Sims, like even worse than Jonathan Sims talking about Jonathan Sims as a child, it's a confirmation that this is the character we know, and this is what this character is like, and we built this character up to be like this, and you know, and other characters know that this is what this character is like, and it just gives us such a portrayal of what this character is, or how he is in the world. It's great. So, and everyone knows Jonathan Sims is this guy who asks the obtrusive questions, the stupidest, most obtrusive questions, in apparently awkward ways. Like, just he's the guy who asks the questions, and that's why. And also the way that this character is connected to the mythos and why he was selected. They built this character like around this mythos, it feels like, or they built this mythos around this character, and at the same time, because of that, it feels like in universe this character is made for this entity, you know. It feels just like in real life where it was built like this. It's great. Okay, I'm gonna listen to this actual episode now.
Maybe I know something that can help.
No, it's not. There are some things it doesn't help to know more about.
Right.
Right.
And you're sure you're okay with this? And with me recording?
I mean, no, but you told all your stuff, so, I mean, it's just fair, I think.
I mean,
Okay.
Maybe I know something that can help.
No, it's not, there are some things it doesn't help to know more about. So, how does this work?
You just tell your story.
Right.
Would it help if I asked?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Statement of Georgina Barker regarding the last
Be a cool
words
superpower
of a
thing.
possible corpse. Recorded direct from subject, April 29th, 2017. Statement begins. So, what happened?
It was my first year of university, before I'd met...
People on the Reddit commented on the fact that like a slight static sound plays whenever Jonathan Sims does his little compelling thing, and I find that very cool.
I was still studying English at Balliol back then and trying to hide how poor my family was from everyone else. None of them said anything, of course, but whenever they talked,
Georgie
I could
backstory?
count the seconds before I got lost. Before one of them made a reference or assumed something about my life, and I realised I was out of my depth. I'd learned what a punt was. There couldn't have been much more than that, surely. I'd read so many books, and nobody knew any more about my subject than I did, but the way my classmates all seemed to read Latin or reference philosophers I'd never heard of. I'd never been able to travel outside the country, but everyone seemed to assume I went skiing every winter. I felt I'd wandered on stage without a script. I felt boring, like I was being judged on all the experiences I'd never been able to have. And I always remember their faces when I'd get excited and a hint of scouse would creep into my voice. Like I was some sort of curiosity. I was scared all the time, terrified that someone would see through me, see the fraud I felt like I was. There was only one person I really felt myself around. Her name was Alex Brooke, and she was a medical student at Corpus Christi. She'd grown up in an ex-mining town in the Black Country, though I can't remember which one, and she seemed to feel the same way I did. But where I was anxious and self-conscious, she was angry. I never met anyone who could skewer the pompous dickheads like she could. I think she actually headbutted some rich kid from Christchurch once. She was a couple of years above me, and we met after we both went to some self-satisfied theatre thing in my second week. We simultaneously decided to ditch it halfway through when they started talking about the highlights of the last season at the National. We went for a drink instead, and just like that we were inseparable. Alex was always so confident, so utterly unafraid. I always admired her for that, even if I sometimes found it almost as intimidating as the posh boys quoting Latin. I think she made a point of never letting anything shake her. Even when talking about the most morbid subjects, she never lost that smile. And as a medical student, there were plenty of morbid subjects to talk about. She'd discuss her dissections with me, I think just to watch me squirm a bit and talk about how hungry she always got at the smell of preserved brain, and apparently it's exactly like tinned tuna. She liked to make that observation just before taking a big bite of her sandwich. I don't think I actually ever saw her eat tuna any other time. Maybe she didn't even like the stuff, she just wanted to make a point. I'm sure you remember all the protests back then. I went on a few marches myself, so it didn't exactly come as a huge surprise to hear that there was a group occupying one of the faculty buildings. What was strange about the whole thing was nobody seemed to exactly know what the group were protesting, or exactly when it had started. They'd taken over part of the medical sciences building though, so I think most people assumed it was some sort of scientific ethics or animal rights thing. The staff were all very quiet about it. Alex was loudly angry about it, as was her way. I wasn't sure exactly what it was about, but reckoned I was probably on the protester side or close to it, but she was having none of it. Apparently, classes were being changed all over the place to avoid that part of the building, and it was playing havoc with her schedule. One night, when we were both through a few pints in Balliol Bar, I mentioned that it was a bit weird there weren't more police around, if they were illegally occupying the place. And she got this little light in her eye, this wrinkle around the edges that I knew meant trouble. I asked her what she was planning, but she just shook her head and gestured to get another drink. I didn't see her again until the following afternoon. She called me up out of nowhere and demanded we have lunch. I didn't point out that it was past 4. There was something in her voice that made me think she hadn't slept, and not because she'd partied the night away. I pushed a plate of chips and sausage towards her, but she barely looked at it. Finally, she looked up at me, and I saw something new in her face. I saw fear. They were just sitting there, she said. Apparently, Alex had found her way back into the medical science building after putting me drunkenly to bed. God knows what she was planning to do. I don't think even she was completely sure. Something about catching the protesters sleeping and bothering them the way she thought they'd been bothering her. She'd found her way to the rooms they'd taken over and was about to go in when she'd glanced through the small window on the swinging double doors. They were lying on the floor, she told me. All of them. Not like they were sleeping, but like they'd just collapsed, motionless where they had been standing. There were no placards, no signs, just a couple dozen normal-looking students fallen to the floor. Their chests moved up and down slowly, so Alex was sure they'd been alive, but their eyes stared vacantly into the space in front of them, and everything else about them seemed lifeless and empty. Some of them were lying with their heads or legs at odd, uncomfortable-looking angles, but they either didn't notice or didn't care. They all seemed to have fallen away from a single, central point in the room. Kneeling there was the only figure who hadn't collapsed. She was an older woman, Alex said, and was almost completely naked. Her skin was pale and her head was shaved. Like the others, she was still, with only the movement of her chest showing she was still alive, but unlike those on the floor, her eyes moved. They gently swept from one side of the room to the other, like she was searching for something. Then those eyes settled on Alex, staring in through the door. The eyes didn't light up, they didn't narrow or show any sign they'd registered her existence. They just stopped moving and looked at Alex, as though waiting for her next move. And it was at that point Alex had recognized the woman and run. Obviously, I wanted to know who the woman was, and I demanded Alex tell me, but she told me to... Well, she said she didn't want to say, and pushed her now cold lunch away from her. I wasn't letting her get away that easily, and I pressed the point. Who was this woman with the shaved head? Where had she seen her before? Finally, Alex admitted that she'd seen the woman during classes at the medical building. Was she a tutor? What was her name? Alex looked me right in the eyes. They weren't allowed to tell us their names. It took a few moments to work out what she meant, and when I did, I felt dizzy. Alex had such absolute certainty in her voice, but she had to be wrong. It was impossible. I had no idea what to say, and all I could manage to do was blurt out, "Tuna?" She stared at me for a few seconds, then shrugged and looked to the floor. We sat there in silence for a long time, trying to understand what had just been said. I mean, there was no way that there could be something in a university building causing students to collapse and nobody was taking any steps to deal with it, especially if it involved one of the cadavers. It just wasn't possible. But the only other explanation I could come up with was that Alex was lying, and I just needed to look at her to know that was even less likely. So I did what I felt was the only thing I could do in that situation. I told her I'd go with her if she wanted to take a second look. She didn't, but we went anyway. It was Saturday, and the place was eerily quiet. Even without classes or labs, there were always a few students hovering about, going to and from places, eager to get some work done when everywhere wasn't so crowded. But all we passed heading into the building was a single police car sat empty, just slightly mounting the curb. The door to the medical science building stood open. It was a bright day, but the hall stood dark. Alex looked at me just once, as if asking whether I was sure about doing this. I wasn't, but I still nodded. We stepped inside. The building was cool and quiet, with just the faint drone of the air conditioning in the background. I'd never actually been inside before, but Alex's steps were confident in their direction.
It was a body button for examination. I'm a fool. I was like, what does that mean?
She pushed open
I was like, I don't know, medical department, I'm a fool. Okay. I don't know anything about cadavers.
Lying on the floor. But not just students. I saw faculty and even a policeman slumped there like the others. What Alex hadn't mentioned was how grey they all seemed. Not in the sense they were sickly, but like they'd had the colour simply drained away from them. And knelt in the middle was the woman. Her skin seemed grey as well, but in her it was clearly the colour of death. It didn't matter that her ribs rose and fell like she was breathing. Even if Alex hadn't told me before, there would have been no doubt in my mind what she was. Her eyes settled on us with that same disinterested stare. No one moved. Not us, not the corpse, and not the bodies on the floor. There was nothing but the sound of breathing, and maybe the faintest whimpering cry from somewhere among the fallen. Then, very slowly, without any sense of urgency, the dead woman began to stand up. I remember what it was like only vaguely, like trying to describe a dream long after you've woken up from it. As the woman got closer, I could see something in Alex tighten, wind so taut that it finally snapped. She lunged forward, grabbed the corpse by its shoulders and began to scream into its face. What did it want? What had it done? Demanding answers. The dead woman with the shaved head ignored her grip, leaned close to her neck and opened her mouth. For a moment, I had visions of teeth sinking into Alex's flesh, of arterial spray coating the clean white laminate, but all that passed between them was a whisper. Something soft spoken into Alex's ear. Her arms dropped to her side and she turned to look at me. Her eyes were different. They were still hers, and I could tell they still knew me, but something in them was gone. As my gaze met hers, Alex gave a simple, small shrug. So slowly it was as if every ounce of will she had went into that one small gesture. Her head drooped, staring at the floor, and she gently lowered herself down to lie there. And just like that, I was on my own. It feels strange to think that even then I couldn't find the strength to run. If I'm feeling generous to myself, I try to believe it's because I was unwilling to abandon Alex, or maybe the thing had some power to keep me there, but honestly, it was fight, flight, or freeze. And I froze. I saw the dead woman approaching me, smelt the chemicals that kept her from rotting, saw her lean towards me, saw her lips begin to form words.
I'm sorry I'm not talking that much.
In desperation, I slammed my hands over my ears and shut my eyes, willing myself not to hear, not to understand.
I'm gonna have energy, but I'm
listening. As far
listening.
as defenses go, it was basically nothing, but I still think it saved me, at least a bit. I still heard the words. The moment that you die will feel exactly the same as this one. And in an instant, I understood. There's no difference between the present and the future. No other me that will suffer the indignity of death while I live on. It's all a single moment. And there's no difference between that last moment that ushers us out into oblivion and the one we experience now. The promise of a cold and lonely eternity in the grave would have been a mercy. At least it would be eternal. But everything ends. Even the universe. Even time. And that means it's always already ended.
Some good mood-setting music for this monologue.
I felt every feeling within me boil up. Anger, despair, joy, hope, fear. Especially fear. They overwhelmed me. And burned up with the monumental realization of the scale we existed on. Not the meaningless vastness
This is what
of the
end
universe,
is about.
but the smallness of it. And I realized I was in my bed. According to my phone, I had been for several days. I numbly got myself some water and ignored my weeping mother. She tried to hug me, but her arms just slid off my limp shoulders. And that was my life for several months. Eventually, the memory began to fade, and I started to feel again. I took the year out of university under the umbrella of medical reasons, and by the time I met you, I was, well, I don't think I'll ever be the same person I was before, but I had started being able to actually live again. I never learned for sure what happened to the people in the medical science building, or to the dead women. Someone said a police van and ambulance had turned up in the night and taken them all away, but I couldn't find anything more on it. None of them came back to the university, and I never saw Alex again. There was one thing that never returned to me afterwards, though. Since that day, I've never been able to feel afraid. My fear's just
at all
gone.
Oh,
I'm not
well, that's
foolhardy.
that's why you had that
I can still
great
recognize
reaction
danger
to the
and I
monsters
understand the
thing.
likelihood of harm, but actual fear? Simply not something I experience anymore. And I've never been able to figure out if it was cauterized or if it was stolen. So that's it.
Interesting.
I see. That, I mean that...
Explain some things?
A bit. I can't believe you never told me.
Well, I can't believe you didn't tell me you were on the run from the police over 2 murders, so...
No, you're right.
Are you alright? You look like you're about to keel over.
No, I just... There's been a lot of statements in not a lot of time. I'm exhausted. Kind of wish I knew even one person who genuinely wasn't involved.
Maybe that's why you thought of me. I mean, it's been years and there must be other old friends you lost touch with. Maybe
Jonathan
you did know.
Sims road trip.
Yeah,
Old
maybe,
pals.
It's alright, John. You sleep. I'll tidy up here.
Yes.
Yeah, there was the whole John can only get through one statement a week thing, and his brain
The Magnus
breaks.
Archives is a podcast distributed
He
by
gets
Rusty
super
Quill,
tired of
licensed under a
listening to
Creative
people
Commons
talk
Attribution, non-commercial,
in his head.
share-alike 4.0 international license.
Interesting.
Today's episode was written by Jonathan Sims and directed by Alexander J. Newell. To subscribe, view associated material, or
That
join
was
our
very
Patreon,
depressing.
visit
That made me feel things. I didn't feel
Rate and review us
scared. I felt
online, tweet us
sad.
at The Rusty
Death
Quill,
is
visit
a
us on
big
Facebook
thing
or
for
email
me
us at
in my
mail@rustyquill.com.
in my the brain
Join
that
our
looks like
communities
this.
on the forum via the website
The
or
whole
on Reddit at
I'm
r/the
sorry. The whole FOMO thing that's going on in my head has a lot to do with death, about life, about the shortness of life and missing out. It's all to do with death. I have a very bad relationship with death, like most people, I assume. She shrugged at Georgie and laid down. She said, "Guess I'll die." That was really a "guess I'll die" moment. Sorry, computer. Okay. Dang. That. So I guess the end's whole deal is existential crises aimed specifically at me. I'm like, thank you for that. Thank you. I needed that. I totally didn't go through this as a 10-year-old, and I don't need to go through it again. I'm joking, by the way. I'm not actually feeling particularly. I mean, it got to me, but I'm not like breaking down or anything. Ooh, it just hit. It was just it hit. It didn't hit hard, but it hit close. It hit. I know how that feels. Poof. Georgie. I guess I should really start making more connections with like these things. Like I know what entity caused it, the end, but like I should start making connections between like these statements related that we know are related to the end, and past statements that we don't know are related to the end. But I'm bad at remembering things. Anything with corpses? I don't know. Oh, there was that one thing. Well, nah, that doesn't really remind anyone of like the shortness and then the end of the universe. Is that the end's whole deal? I don't know if Jürgen Leitner described what the end's whole deal was. I don't think he did, but it seems like the end's whole deal isn't just like death is fun like that. It's more that everything is death, everything. That's why it's called the end. Everything, the end is not just the end is coming, but the end is already here. It's like basically what the article said, and I just had it. She glimpsed the universe. Like, this is what I don't know how to describe this. The show did a very good job of describing it, but I want to put it in my own words because I'm crazy. It was described in a way that the exact moment you die will feel the moment you die will feel exactly the same as this one. And it removes that disconnect, because what people usually do to deal with the concept of death is that there's a disconnect between, like as Georgie described it, between the present you, which is living, and the future you, which is not. And then you put that distance between it, and so you said, that's future Spike's problem. That's a reference. Then you say, well, I'm alive right now, but death is gonna be different. But like, it's not different. You will approach death the same way you approach everything else in life, and you will experience it just like you experience taking a step forward, I guess. Interesting. I don't know if that was a good explanation. I don't know. Or at least how I interpret it, how I feel it. Like, death is not only coming, it's an inevitability. That sounds too cheesy. It's not something that's coming, it's something that you know. I don't know how to describe this. The show did a very good job of describing that feeling of knowing it's all gonna be over, and feeling that it's all gonna be over, and feeling that it's all pointless and meaningless and blah 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 blue. Basically, that statement, it seemed, that makes a lot of sense, because she whispered in that person's ear and they collapsed on the floor. They went like, I guess I'll die. Basically, all these people, they basically lost the will to live, basically. But what they lost specifically was the disconnect between life and death, or the present and the imminent death of everything you've ever known. You know, they lost that disconnect, and so they lost hope in living, and then they just basically keeled over and died and turned into corpses. Because what's the point? Because at that point, it's the same thing. Me and the corpse, same difference. Like, and how, as Georgie mentioned, there's no like eternity after death. There's no like eternal peace or sleep or anything. It's just over. You know, it basically, like, what this thing did was, it took away your coping mechanism. You cannot cope any longer. There is no coping. Death is now. Like, there is no coping. You will experience death. You will die. You can't cope with that fact. This is I will let you see reality for one short moment. You know that moment you had as a child where you realized what death actually was, and how death would actually be like, what it actually meant for you and your brain and every single that's ever existed in it. That one moment where you felt that for the first time, and over the course of years of your life, basically managed to cover it up and become numb to that fact. I will let you feel that one moment where you realized it and remain stuck in it. That's basically what happened. And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what else to say. That's what happened. Maybe that's a little too personal. I don't know, but I feel like most people would experience something like that. But yeah. Good episode though. Got some Melanie. Melanie has seemed, I don't know. I've never picked on the whole I would never pick up. It's not like I haven't like picked up on the fact that she's very like, she's never, like, shown fear. Like, I know that. But, like, I would never have picked up on the fact that she just doesn't have fear. Like, ooh. I feel like I need to burp, but I can't. Well, that was weird. It just, like, came out. Oh my god, it's like coming out of my mouth, but I'm not burping. It's like leaking out. The gas is leaking out of me. That's very strange. And it's coming out of my throat, and it's kind of uncomfortable. Literally, I'm getting haunted right now. Literally, I don't want to have to give a statement, because usually, like, 50% chance you're gonna die, like, a week later. You come and you give a statement. I think something's following me. And then you forget, and then you return to your house, and then Martin has to come back and says, this person died like a couple days after the statement was given, and Jonathan Sims is going like, ah. And then this person was covered in spider webs. Weird. I'm sure there's an explanation. Okay. But yeah. What was I saying? Oh my god. Corpses, death, Sims. Oh yeah, Georgie. And feel. I feel like, I mean, if you were made aware of the existence of existence, like the true existence of it. If you were made aware of the true existence of existence, I guess it barely does. It very much would feel very hard to feel fear for anything. It's a very cool thing to worship. The end seems like a very cool thing to worship, and I want to hear more people talk about it. The end, super cool. Cauterized or stolen. Interesting. That's a good line. This is a cool episode. John's like, I never knew. Interesting. That was a really good episode. These episodes were really good. Oh god, I feel like I'm missing things when I don't react to things. I will be back for We All Ignore the Pit. I've heard good things about that episode. Okay. So, thank you. I will be on my leave, signing off into the next dimension. I have an outro, which is weird considering people apparently watch these. And, okay, you know what's weird? Okay, the weirdest part is that, oh my god, I'm so fucking sorry to anyone who's watching these consistently. You have to cut through so much bullshit of me just talking about whatever, because I stream these, and if I was a reasonable, sensible person, I would record them, and I would edit them, and I'd take out all of the bullshit of me just going like talking forever. I was just ramble on about my life for a minute, about how, like, I wish I had someone to talk to about things. I can talk forever about the things that I like. This is why I do this. This is why I you know, I'm just desperate for things to talk about. I can talk about anything for so long. Okay. But yeah, I'm so sorry. I just did it again in front of you while apologizing to you. I am so sorry. But yeah. What the fuck was I saying? I'm going insane. What was I saying? Yeah, because I've recorded reactions to a bunch of other series, actually. Like Hunter x Hunter, I recorded reactions to every single episode, like into the hundreds, and I lost all the footage, and it made me want. Nope, I'm not stepping closer to that topic. I'm gonna judge up awful feelings. But then what did I do? I recorded in the middle of that reaction series. I formulated this outro signing off into the next dimension because it felt like something that, like, felt like a YouTuber outro, and like I was actually like 50% certain like I'd like copied it off of someone, but like when I looked at the YouTubers that I liked, like I couldn't find like that it matched anyone, so I was like, really? Did I just pull that out of my head? But then during that reaction series, I like formulated that outro, and I used it at the end of every single reaction video. So I had over 100 reactions where I signed off with that outro, but I never uploaded like any of them. I uploaded 2 out of the freaking 100 that I recorded, and basically I don't think I had the outro in those, or maybe I did, I don't even remember because it was so long ago, but I recorded with the outro every single time, and none of them saw the light of day. So when I started streaming these, and like when I started streaming and some recording more videos, like I started saying signing off into the next dimension, and I was like, I'm saying this outro that no one knows like the origin of, like it's come out of thin air. Like I my reactions to Infinity Train, my reactions to literally so many things. I guess it's basically just Hunter x Hunter and Infinity Train, but that's a long ass show. Like they all have outros, the same outro, and one of them has the origin of that outro in it, and they will basically never see the light of day. And now I just have this outro that makes no sense, that I'm just using like as if I ever had an outro, because on this channel I haven't uploaded anything. Okay, signing off to the next dimension. Goodbye. I'm having a good time. I know I'm making it seem like I'm having a mental breakdown, and I kind of am, responsibilities wise and just stress wise, but I'm amping it up for entertainment purposes.